But first, I want to kind of throw in the idea of when you're talking about the nerd guy in this trope, you know, ultimately he's clueless. He has no idea how to take care of his partner, which is, again, super emasculating. Um, within this characterization of a nerd guy, they want you to see him as not a man, which is just so strangely sexist. And you might not think of it as being sexist because a lot of times people forget that sexism can also be turned around and shown towards men. But it is a problem of emasculating male nerds to kind of make it so they aren't seen as men, in the stereotypical sense. Guys can do and be whatever they want to be. Being interested in uh, Dungeons and Dragons doesn't make you any less of a guy. I'm not sure why that has become um, built into that trope. And again, or why, wanting to play video games or wanting to make costumes and cosplay and dress up, go to your convention and like hang out with other people who have your interests, or even just, going online and talking to other people about how much you love Star Trek or something like that. Like those are not gendered interests. Um, and then conversely, uh, what we have is when geek girls are shown, which you'll note I have not mentioned geek girls at all up until this point. They're always shown as kind of desperate and clingy, unable to get a guy, which, again, in a very, if you're looking at this with a sexist attitude, the idea is that these girls are too masculine to date anyone, basically. So that kind of leaves nerdy hobbies floating in a gendered limbo in which if you're a girl who's into this stuff, it makes you too manly. But if you're a guy who's into this stuff, then it makes you not a man. So what's the truth? I don't know. Um, Ultimately, I think both of those are incorrect. Obviously, video games, comics, everything else, none of that stuff is gendered in any way. So it comes down to being something that people want to use just to kind of make you feel like shit, which is stupid. Um, and again, like I said, that brings us to what makes for a good relationship. Now, in my opinion, and why I said that this video was about geek on geek relationships, is that as someone who is really passionate about your hobbies, you should try to find someone who is equally passionate about their hobbies. Now, don't get me wrong, they don't have to be the same thing. I'll use the example of my own relationship, and I've been with my husband for like going on 11 years. Um, we met when we were in college, and over time, our interests have kind of changed and evolved. So in college, something that we had in common was that we're both really into tabletop role-playing stuff like D&D, and we both still are into that, and we're able to play games once in a while despite the fact that we have a kid. Like, that kind of puts a damper on the hobby thing. But but over time we also have developed other interests. That, for example, he's really into board games and card games, and that's just never really been something that interests me. So I'll play once in a while, not as like I'm gonna play with him out of pity or because I feel obligated. Because again, don't you should never feel obligated to do something within a relationship. You should do things because you want to do them to make the other person happy. Um, but I'm not gonna sit down and play a 5 hour long board game that's gonna bore me to tears. I'm gonna play the 15-minute game that I kind of enjoy anyway. It's just not necessarily something that I would be like, yes, I want to play that, let's play that right now, unless he brought it up. Um, and then, I have my own stuff. Like, even though I'm not very good at it, I enjoy costuming. Um, he's not into that, so if he wanted to, I would make him a costume, but it's not like I'm probably not going to get him to sit down and sew. Although he did try to knit and he was kind of better at it than I was. But so, what you want when it comes down to what you need to have a successful relationship, whether you are a nerd or not, is it's pretty much like it's four things that you really want. And it's respect, communication, understanding, and time management. That's something that kind of gets left out. But especially if you are both nerds, you need to consider time management. Because if you want to come home at the end of the day and you want to be able to still do your hobbies, then you want to make sure that you're also going to have time for your partner. If you and your partner are both into the same things and you can do all of those things together, then that's great because that kind of kills two birds with one stone. But if, for instance, you're into different things, then you kind of need to sit down and, maybe mark up your Google Calendar, like that's actually what my husband and I do, so that we know when we're going to be doing different things that only one of us is interested in. And then we can also make sure that we have time for each other. And again, that's still something that you should do, even if you don't consider yourself a nerd. Um, but of course, communication, everyone says that. Like, you need to talk about everything. You need to talk about things you don't feel good about. You need to talk about the things that you do feel good about. Um, it's kind of that whole positive reinforcement thing where you really should let people know what they're doing right and, what they're doing that makes you happy. Because everyone loves to hear, about the good things that they do during their day. So, on top of that, you also get, when you're in a relationship, you need a lot of understanding, or empathy, which is something that so many people seem to forget. So, for instance, if your partner has done something that made you upset, then you kind of need to step back and think about it from their perspective. Like, that's going to make your life so much easier if you are able to look at something from your partner's perspective. And hopefully they'll do the same for you. Because I feel like that is what leads to a lot of fights within relationships, people fighting over really stupid crap that doesn't matter. Like, would you want your partner to get mad at you for leaving a dish in the sink when you just put it there without thinking? It's not like you did it to make them angry. So, no, obviously. So, you shouldn't get mad over those small things. When you're with someone for a long time, you just kind of end up, there's things that you do that make your relationship go very smoothly. Because for me, I'm kind of a neat freak. So, if my husband leaves his socks on the floor, I'll pick them up because obviously that's not really something that matters to him, so he doesn't think about it. It's something that matters to me, and I do think about it, so I'll take care of it. Just little things like that. Or the fact that occasionally, if you're kind of socially mismatched, like my husband is far more outgoing than I am, he's very extroverted compared to me being very introverted. So, if he knows that I'm having a bad day, then instead of going out, or, well, I can't really go out much now because of having a kid, but when we were a little younger, maybe he would make plans for us to go out, but if he saw that I would, rather stay in, then he would stay in with me. But it's just that give and take of a relationship. And ultimately, what I keep talking about and what I was talking about with the tropes of, um, what you get to see on TV a lot is you need to have respect. And I feel like that should go without saying, but it usually doesn't. And it's a respect for a lot of things, not just for the person themselves, but also for the person's time, for their interests, and for their friends. Because these are all things that you'll see when you're looking at the relationship tropes on TV or in movies, that all of those things get disrespected. And it's something that can happen to people normally. And you kind of need to make sure that it doesn't, because that is something that will kill your relationship no matter how much you like the person you're with. If you don't respect the time that they need to themselves, the time that they need for their hobbies, and then, or don't respect that they need time with you if you are the one with a lot of hobbies and interests that eat up a lot of time. So, with all of those things in mind, then I kind of hope that anyone out there who is looking for a relationship or just entering into a relationship can kind of keep all of that, you know, on the front burner. Remember the important parts and try to make sure that no matter how long you've been together, you really do continue to respect each other and communicate. So we'll talk about something else next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.